أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ما أشهدتهم خلق السماوات والأرض ولا خلق أنفسهم وما كنت متخذ المضلين عضدا ويوم يقول نادوا شركائي الذين زعمتم فدعوهم فلم يستجيبوا لهم وجعلنا بينهم موبقا ورأى المجرمون النار فظنوا أنهم مواقعوها ولم يجدوا عنها مصرفا ولقد صرفنا في هذا القرآن للناس من كل مثل وكان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا. Go ahead.
I did not make them witness to the creation of the heavens and earth, nor to their own creation. I do not take as my supporters those who lead others astray. On the day, God will say, call on those you claimed were my partners. They will call them, but they will not answer. We shall set a deadly gulf between them. The evildoers will see the fire and will realize that they are about to fall into it. They will find no escape from it. In this Quran, we have presented every kind of illustration for people, but man is more contentious than any other creature.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن وله بعد. As you might remember last week, we were talking about the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the story of the creation of Adam alayhi salam. And the story of Adam and Iblis and the shaitan. And we talked about the difference between the sin of Adam and the sin of the shaitan. We talked about how human being ending up taking a shaitan as partner, as wali, as a friend, as someone that they turn to instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every time they disobey Allah azza wa jal. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after He mentioned the creation of Adam and the story of the beginning of humanity, Adam is not the universe. صح? Adam ليس هو العالم. There is other things also been created before Adam, which is heavens and earth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He told us a little bit about the history of His creation, we only know a little bit about the things that Allah created. We don't even know everything that Allah have made. Everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. So here He is saying, مَا أَشْهَدْتُهُمْ خَلْقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. You did not witness, you were not there witnessing, nor helped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He created what? The heavens and the earth. And remember, these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing who? Primarily, the disbelievers, those who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The disbelievers, they have other deities that they worship, that they depend on, that's right? That they love, they trust, they seek help from it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I have not made any one of you, nor your deities, nor the gods that you believe in, nor the gods that you claim as partner with me, none of you all have witnessed the creations of the heaven and earth. And that's why there is another qira'at Abu Ja'far. He said, ما أشهدتهم لا ما أشهدناهم خلق السماوات والأرض. We have not made them witness the creation of the heavens and the earth. And al-ulama rahimahumullah said, them referring to, some said ash-shaytan and his followers, the disbelievers. Some said the angels. Some said the people of Mecca. And what it seems to be, that all the creation of everyone can be included in that. And that shows you that no one ever helped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in planning and making the heavens and the earth. هذا إنما يظهر كمال غناه. That's what shows you what? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who created the heavens and the earth and universe. He didn't need any help, nor he didn't need anyone to help him in planning, executing, making. He have the perfect knowledge, the perfect power, and ability to make this universe. So if this is the case, that shows you that those you are worshipping beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not have the power, do not have the abilities that made them gods. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in many verses in the Quran, He makes this case very clear. For instance, in Surah Saba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, verse 23, قُلُ ادْعُوا الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Call upon those who you claim as partner other than Allah. لا يملكون مثقال ذرة في السماوات والأرض. They do not own, they don't possess. لا يملكون مثقال ذرة. They do not own even as much as ذرة. What is the ذرة? The smallest thing. Al-ulama said like the size of the head of an ant. The smallest things, they do not own it. Everything that's been created by Allah, owned by Allah. Tell me one thing that you own. Your deeds. What else? One thing that you own. Your stores. What else you own? Your soul. What is you own? Whatever you want in your life. Clothes. All this, the reality that it is owned by Allah, not by you. He's the one who made it happen to you, and to prove that, He can take it away from you anytime. He can destroy it anytime, can take it away from even your own soul. You don't have a control over it. He give it to you and He can take it. So that means you don't really own it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that everything in this universe is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those who other than Allah, لا يملكون مثقال ذرة. They do not own anything in this universe. وما لهم فيها من شرك وما له منهم من ظهير. Nor they own, nor they have sharaka, partnership with Allah. Because you might not own it solely, but you're partner with Allah. Yani me and Allah together on this. No. The Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, none of these deities, none of these gods that people pray to other than Allah own anything, nor they have a partnership with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any level, in any shape, in any form. وَمَا لَهُم مِّنْهُم مِّن ظَهِيرٍ. And Allah doesn't need any one of them to help Him to run the universe. So Allah here negate how many things? 3 in this verse. That they don't own anything, they do not have a partnership, they don't have the ability to help or to support, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala no need for them. Not only that, He said even farther. He said, وَلَا تَنْفَعُ الشَّفَاعَةُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا لِمَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ. They don't even intercede. If this is the case, if these deities, if these things that you pray to other than Allah, you turn to other than Allah, they don't own, they don't have a partnership, they cannot help, and even they cannot intercede for you, why do you pray to them? Why would you turn to them? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in this verse, He said, وَلَا خَلْقَ أَنفُسِهِمْ. And I did not make them witness how themselves they've been created. They were not there when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created Adam alayhi salam. And here again He's speaking to the humans. Then He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after that, وَمَا كُنْتُ مُتَّخِذَ الْمُضِلِّينَ عَضُدًا. Yes, salam. And I will not take al-mudillin. I will not take al-mudillin. Yani, al-mudillin, it means the people who misleaders as helpers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not take al-mudillin, which is the shaitan and his followers, as helpers. So Allah telling the kuffar, there is no point from you to go astray or to follow the shaitan's path, because ash-shaitan and his followers is never someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will turn to or who need as helpers. Aduda يعني أعوانا, as Imam Malik rahimahullah said. So this verse is meant to confront the disbelievers and to make them realize that their deities will not help them in any shape, in any form. And how can we make this relate to us today? There is nobody who worship idols among us, but around us there is a lot of people still worship idols. Oh my God, just look around. There's a lot of people still turn to an idol and they worship it and they believe in it. There is a lot of people who worship humans. There is a lot of people who worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This form of shirk still exists, and this kind of argument is very strong argument. That's why ulama rahimahumullah, when they said, and he talked about, for example, those who worship Jesus other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beside Allah, and believe Jesus is God. The same question will be raised. Did he own anything in this universe? Did he create anything in the universe? Does he have any work partnership in the universe? If he did not, he's not the God. The God is the one who created him and created the universe. The God is the creator, is the owner, not any other, not any one of his creations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in no need of partners. He doesn't need a son. He doesn't need to forgive, to have a son. He doesn't need to make things to have a helper or aid. So this verse can be used even in our days when we deal with any form of shirk that exists today. Add to this also verse can be very good, something to reflect upon in our life as a Muslims, because Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu does this a lot. He look at the verses that speak about the kuffar and he applied to the Muslims. And a lot of people said, oh, this is takfir. There's no takfir in it. We're not saying that the person is kafir, but Ibn Mas'ud was trying to say, do not adopt the quality of the mushrikeen. That's why when Allah said, وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, I'm not among the mushrikeen. No, it doesn't mean, I'm not going to worship other than Allah. No, I'm not in the mushrikeen in their worship, and I'm not like al-mushrikeen in their attitude, in their qualities, in their the way they behave. That's what it means. So you're not allowed to be like the mushrikeen and the disbelievers in any shape or any form. So here we cite that one of the things that we should to say to ourselves, that anything that today people take as a way of life, as a guidance for them to survive in this dunya, keep to yourself and say, whoever came up with that guidance, whoever come up with that law to organize your personal life, claiming that it is better than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given us in this beautiful book, remember that those people, they did not witness the creation of the heavens and the earth. They did not even witness their own creation to know what is good for you, to know what is really going to heal you, what is really going to protect you. Remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not take al-mudillina aduda. Allah will not take the misleader helpers. Allah will not take the misleader helper to help guide humanity when it comes to the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here again, as I said earlier, this is one of the things about the Quran. Move you from one place to another, from one time to another. So here he talked about, I have not made them witness the creation, the beginning. Then the next verse he said, وَيَوْمَ يَقُولُ نَادُوا شُرَكَائِيَ الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُمْ فَدَعَوْهُمْ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُمْ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. And remember the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, call those partners. ادعوا شركاءكم ويوم يقول نادوا شركاءكم. The word is call upon. The word nida في القرآن, النداء في القرآن, it means you call upon someone with loud voice. Okay? The word nada in Quran means you call upon someone with loud voice. So that means you're screaming. Either because their partners are very far away from them, they can't hear them, or because they are very desperate. So they call, they want to sort of save themselves. So they scream upon these deities and partners that they took with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like, you see, when you're a problem and you see someone that you thought is going to help you, hey, and you're just screaming, help me. So the word is very, it gives you that feeling. It lets you hear them screaming upon them in the day of judgment, or in the hellfire. Or in the hellfire. Type question. You might say, how people will, what will happen with the people who will have partners with Allah, but those partners are not bad things? Yani Jesus. Or somebody worship Muhammad. Or someone worshiped one of the righteous people who passed away. Somebody worshiped jinn, and jinn is Muslim. What would happen to this deity? Isn't there, or they claim them partners? They will see their images, but they will not see them. So they see an image of so-called Jesus, an image of that shrine, image of that claim that is Muhammad, an image of so-and-so called Ali ibn Abi Talib, anything that they used to worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these images. So they scream and they call upon them. And see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ud'u shuraka'ukum, call upon your partners that you claim them partners. They will not answer your call. Al-ulama rahimahullah qalu, Allah called them partners, shuraka'ukum, your partners, not my partners. Those are the one that you have taken, you partner up with them by worshiping them. Ud'u shuraka'ukum alladhina za'amtum. فدعوهم فلم يستجيبوا لهم. Allah called them partner, mocking them. قال قدم وصف الشركاء على الزعم تهكما, that you claim, mocking them. And he said that you claim, زعمتم, you claim, it gives you indication that it is means, or the word za'ama, it's something means false. It's a falsehood. It's not true. That's why he said, you call them that way, and they are not. فَدَعَوْهُمْ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكُمْ فَدَعَوْهُمْ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُمْ. They call upon them, they beg them, but they did not respond to them. They did not respond to them by saving them, by even talking to them, by making promises to them, nothing. فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُمْ بِشَيْءٍ. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, له دعوة الحق والذين يدعون من دونه لا يستجيبون لهم بشيء. Those who you call upon other than Allah, they will never answer your call with anything except like this. إلا كباسط كفيه إلى الماء ليبلغ فاه. Except like someone opened his hand like this and he put his hand inside the water and tried to drink. Can you dip your hand in the water, then you pull it out, and you try to drink? Does anything will remain? Nothing. That's how you are. You call upon them, and they will not respond to you with anything. وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. The dua of the kafirin is dalal, in vain. Will not help, will not benefit. And this is in Surah Al-Ra'd 14. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, after that, فَدَعَوْهُمْ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَهُمْ. So here, they call upon them, they scream, they beg them. They did not respond to them. Then Allah said, وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we shall put موبقا between them. جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ, يعني between the disbelievers and their deities. بين الشركاء والذين كانوا يعبدون بين الآلهة ومعبوداتها. Those who used to worship these deities and their deities, their idols, whatever they used to worship beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or it could be Allah have made a barrier or mawbiqa between the believers and the disbeliever at that time. So the disbeliever will be told them, hey, go with your partner together. And the believers, you stay together. And that's what happened in the Day of Judgment. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that everybody used to worship something, he will see the image of it. And will follow it until these images fall in the hellfire and the people will fall behind it. So that means they all will gather together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make mawbiqa, which is a barrier between the disbelievers and the believers. That's one opinion. The other opinion said no. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. We made a barrier between the disbelievers and the deities that they used to worship, the gods that they used to worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is mawbiqa? Ibn Abbas rahimahullah ta'ala wa radiyallahu anh said, mawbiqa mahlika, distractions. Something will made between them, what will bring death to them, what will destroy them. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As said, a valley in the hellfire, a very deep valley in the hellfire, that the people, the kuffar, cannot cross it. So they see their deities in the other side in the hellfire, and they want to go to them, but they can't because they see this huge, deep valley in between them. Al-Hasan al-Basri said, no. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ مَوْبِقًا. We made between them mawbiqa, قال العداوة, hate and animosity. Hate. The disbeliever, when they see the deities and these gods and those who misled them, not helping them, they will hate them the most at this point. Al-Rabi' ibn Anas said, al-mahbis. It means between them that they were locked up. So the kuffar will be locked up in a place in hellfire and they cannot reach out to these gods and talk to them. The point is that there will be a separation or barrier between them and their gods and their deities. Then they feel that there is no way they can benefit from them at all. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what's the fact? The fact is this. And the mujrimeen, criminals, sinners, disbelievers, hypocrites, those mujrimeen, what will happen? وَرَأَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ النَّارِ, shall see the fire. And basically when they see it, they will realize that they are going to fall in it. And that support the idea that they will see their deities in the day of the land of resurrection. They see their images and they tried to reach them, they could not, and they basically ended up in the hellfire. Or maybe that barrier between them inside the hellfire, that valley. وَرَأَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ النَّارِ, that when they see it with their own eyes in the land of resurrection. Because my brothers and sisters, the hellfire will be seen by everyone on the day of judgment. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمْ. That day, the hellfire will be brought near to people. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, it will be held by 70,000 robes, each robe held by 70,000 angels. Ibn Mas'ud said, these robes entitled the hellfire, because if they do not do that, the hellfire will jump into the land of resurrection and will swallow and take and pick every disbeliever from the face of the earth, or every sinner that is supposed to go to the hellfire. But they tied the hellfire, they hold it back, pull it back. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here said, when they see the hellfire, they know that they will fall in it. Why? Why they know that they will fall in the hellfire? They know that they belong to the hellfire because they found out that the deities that they worshipped are false. They found out that there is a day of judgment. They found out that there is a resurrection. They found out that the believers are calm. And so they understand the kufr that they did, the sin that they have made. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, also their books. Even before they take the books, they realize that. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. At that day, you know exactly what you deserve. وَلَمْ يَجِدُوا عَنْهَا مَصْرِفًا. And they will not find no way for escape from the hellfire. And no way to escape after they enter it and before they enter it. They found no way, because there is only two places to go to in Day of Judgment: Jannah or Nar. There is no option to go back to the dunya. There is no option to go back to the worldly life. It's either you go to the hellfire or you go to paradise. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they have no place to go, no place to escape. Or maybe after they enter the hellfire and they experience it, they know that they can't get out, because إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ. They will be locked inside the hellfire. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said after that, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. And indeed, we have put forth every kind of example, illustrations in this Quran. So, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give many different kind of illustrations, many different examples. هذا التنويع والتصريف. Why? Because people are different. So sometimes the Quran speak to your mind, sometimes speak to your heart, sometimes speak to you putting fear, sometimes putting hope, sometimes reminding you of the blessings of Allah, sometimes speak about things that is very materialistic, something you can touch, sometimes take to your soul, something very spiritual. So every person is different. And the Quran give you the worldly benefits, the hereafter, the benefits for you in the hereafter. So all these different things that the Quran explained to you and basically approach you with, it may create you or create inside you a sense of excitement. Al-Jannah. He didn't tell us about one thing in Jannah. For example, can you imagine, one day I was teaching about Al-Jannah and somebody was asking me, Shaykh, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about food in Jannah? And I don't like food. It's not like something excites me, there is food in Jannah. Who cares for food? I said, maybe you don't, other people do. Okay? You don't like food, other people like food. For them, this is a big deal. I respect food. Okay? I don't know about you, but I respect food. I like good food. I like good fruits. Somebody else speak about clothing and jewelry. Somebody else maybe get attracted the concept of that they will have, servants. They'll be young. They will be healthy. There's many things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned many things in the Quran, examples. Why? Because He wants to touch everybody's heart. And everybody has his own taste. وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. It's reminding me of the verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, تَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ. Allah said about the wind that they are not one type of wind. For some from the north, some from the south, some comes cold, some comes warm. These different type of wind that comes is the reason for making this earth full of life. And if the wind, why? Because if the wind doesn't move, or to move only in one direction, you will not have this environment that you have today. But these changes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it in the air, it the cause for rain, the cause for the movement of the clouds and basically the seasons to happen and so forth. The same thing with these different examples that Allah gives in the Quran. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ. These examples, different examples that Allah gives in the Quran, these analogies, these things that make you think about the nature of your creation and the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His rights upon us, lead to guidance. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said after that, even though with all these different examples and illustrations that Allah have given to us to guide us in the Quran, He said, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. A human being is basically, a man is ever more, he is, how can I put it? He is the most argumented creation, or he loves to argue. So, because of your nature as a human being that you love to argue, you love to think, you love to analyze, you love to question things. So Allah give you so many examples to choose from, so many different ways. So no matter how much, if you start thinking and using really your logic and your aql, and you start thinking about it, analyze it, you will arrive to the conclusion, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Lord and the one that you should submit yourself to. And His religion is the best sharia, the best guidance for you to follow. Al-ulama rahimahullah said, is this appraising or not? When he said, and the human being, the most argumented creature. Is that appraising or criticism? Is that a good or bad? Some ulama said actually it was said that this verse in particular referring to the kuffar who keep arguing with the Prophet ﷺ. In particular, they said it's related to An-Nadr ibn al-Harith when he started arguing about the Quran, Ubay ibn Khalaf. And what it seems to be that this verse not only related to these individuals, but to show the nature of the human being. Because human beings like to argue. They just like to give up quickly. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his beloved daughter Fatima came to his house. But he wasn't there. Aisha, she was there. And she said, I want to talk to my father. I want to talk to my father about something. What do you want? She said, I need to talk to him. She said, he's not here, but I will let him know when he comes back. So in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he came late. So he went to his daughter's after Isha, and she was already went to bed with her husband. So in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, actually in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what he did, he went there before Fajr. He was told, and after Isha, you don't approach people. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said he will go to her in the morning and see what she wants. But before he went to the masjid, see how much he loves his daughter. Before he went to the masjid for Fajr prayer, he went where? To his daughter's house to talk to her. You might say, Sheikh, but isn't that also late? It's not Fajr yet. But the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam expected them to make a qiyam al-layl, to be praying in the night. That's the expected. So he found them asleep. So when the Prophet ﷺ came to them, she got shy and she covered herself, because as you assume that in the old days during the Prophet ﷺ time, they don't have that concept that we have called pajamas. You only have one set of clothes. Most likely people when they go to bed, they are naked. They don't have clothes on. They take their clothes off and they just cover themselves, and that's how they sleep. So she felt shy, her and her husband next to each other. Yeah, it's kind of shy. And she covers. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told her that if you, what I brought you, she told him that she was looking for a servant. Then in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, she said, I heard that you got some money and I would like you to get me a servant. Then in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال ما كان لمحمد, wouldn't be fit that Muhammad يعطي ابنته خادما ويترك أهل الصفة فقراء. Ya salam. Wouldn't be right for Muhammad to give his daughter a servant while we have poor people live in a suffah. The poor people who live in the back of the masjid Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wouldn't happen. If I have extra money, I'll give it to those poor people. But I can tell you something better than servant. that when you go to your bed, you say Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 34 times. For both of you. Then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, didn't you pray before Fajr? Then Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh said, Ya Rasulullah, we are humans. Our soul not in our hand. It's in the hand of Allah. Whenever He give it back to us when we sleep, we wake up. And if He didn't bring it back to us, we don't wake up. It's not my fault that I didn't wake up for prayer. Then in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he did like this. He hit his thigh and he left walking, angry, saying, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. Human beings love to argue. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not accusing you with anything. He wants to encourage you. When he said, you don't pray, subhanallah, you don't pray in the night. Subhanallah, the word in Nabi Sallallahu, when he used it, he's not like us, we say subhanallah for everything. No, he said, when he said subhanallah, that means something made him angry, something not correct. So he said, subhanallah, you don't pray in the night? So the Prophet ﷺ, what he was trying to encourage you, to show you that this is it's not the best thing. What's expected from Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima to Muhammad, that they make Qiyam al-Layl and they pray in the night. That's what they're expecting from them. He's not saying this for you to start arguing, saying, oh, I overslept and the soul in the hand of Allah. You don't do that with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't do that with the Sharia. You don't do that with someone who's giving you advice, with someone who wants good for you. So, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used this verse in relation to this incident. So that means this verse is not only related to the kuffar, and even if it was sent down in regard to the incident of the kuffar, we can use this verse in any incident that it fits the meaning. Anyway, Al-Ulama rahimahullah said that the insan, he is the most argumented creation. Even he argue way more than the angels. Angels don't argue much. Then you have more argumented than, he argue more than the shayateen and the jinn. Some of the ulama said that, and some said no. Ibn Ashur said it is possible for human to argue more than the jinn. I believe so. I believe human beings argue way more than the jinn. Jinn are so weak comparing to humans. And the point is that human beings, they argue a lot, they question a lot. And I think that's because they are the most intellect creations, more than animals, and they speak. So that's why Allah gave them quality, made them have this ability to argue, to question things. And I believe that this description is not negative and not positive. What determines your argumentation, it is positive or negative, it is how you argue and what you argue for and what's there lead you to. If that makes sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here said, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. Anybody knows another verse very similar to this, sound the same? There is another verse in the Quran almost identical to this, to the beginning part, which is, and indeed we have put forth every kind of example in the Quran for mankind. Anybody knows? In Surah Al-Isra, the surah before Al-Kahf, Allah said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا لِلنَّاسِ فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. Indeed, we have put forth for human being, in this Quran, every illustration. It's exactly the same. The only different in Surah Al-Isra, he said, for humans, started with human. وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا لِلنَّاسِ. We have put forth for human beings all kind of illustrations in this Quran. So the human came first, Quran came later. But in Surah Al-Kahf, it's the opposite. وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لِلنَّاسِ. We illustrate in the Quran for the human. He put the Quran first, then the human comes next. Al-ulama rahimahullah said it is for a reason. Because in Surah Al-Isra, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was challenging humans. قُلْ لَوْ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجُنُّ عَلَىٰ أَن يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. So Allah was talking to humans, that's why He started with them. And He said, we have for humans, for you, we have brought all kind of examples. But in Surah Al-Kahf, the surah is talking about the Quran, not the humans. The beginning of the surah is all talking about Al-Quran. That's why it started with the Quran in this verse, even though they are very identical. And that's what Ibn Ashur rahimahullah said, as I have seen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. For those who cares for the verses that they are very similar to each other, but there is maybe one or two differences. Sometimes very unique why this comes first and comes later. And that's one of the things that Ibn Ashur rahimahullah cared for in his tafsir. Anyway, I want to a little bit make a comment on the concept of al-jadal. Al-jadal, or arguing, it's a big subject. And argue, even it became a ilm, a science, an art, okay, that people learn, and you take a class in debates. And al-jadal, generally speaking, arguing is something discouraged in Sharia. When you look at the text, the word jadal, argumentation, is not something good. Al-Barbahari rahimahullah said, there is no bid'ah, there is no kufr, there is no hawa, there is no dalala, there is no zandaqa, okay, came except out of argumentation. All caused by argument. So that's number one. Number two, al-jadal, as Ibn Abbas said, any two people start arguing with each other in the religion, they end up claiming things in the religion which is not from it. قال ما افترق إلا كذب على الله. Hamad ibn Zayd, he said that something very similar to that. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, فَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ. We made them enemy to each other, talking about the children of Israel, and this in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 14. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i said how Allah turned the children of Israel to fight one another, to hate one another, by making them argue with one another. That's why Sharia mainly talking very negative about argumentation, because it leads to hating each other's. And I can tell you there is not a single book, almost, especially from our traditional books, that talk about Islamic creed unless they have a chapter about the prohibition and warning from argumentation. Usul al-Sunnah lil-Lalaka'i has a full chapter about that. Al-Shari'ah lil-Ajurri, Al-Ibanah al-Kubra li-Ibn Battah, Jami' Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlih, Kitab al-Bukhari, Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih lil-Baghdadi, الأصبهاني في كتابه الحجة في بيان المحجة, Sunan al-Darimi, and many books of hadith and aqidah talk about that. Let's hear the adhan, then we continue.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
If you look at the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you will find many verses, many ahadith forbidding and warning us from engaging in any kind of argumentation. الذين يجادلون في آيات الله بغير سلطان أتاهم كبر مقتا عند الله وعند الذين آمنوا كذلك يطبع الله على كل قلب متكبر جبار. In Surah Ghafir verse 35. Look at Surah Shura verse 35 as well. Look at Surah Ghafir again verse 4 and verse 56. All of these verses talk about that the kuffar are the one who like to argue. And they argue for the sake of defeating the haqq and supporting the falsehood. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ya Aisha, if you see those who argue in the Quran and argue about their religion, they are the one Allah mentioned in the Quran, so be aware of them. أولئك الذين سماهم الله فاحذروهم. This the one في قلوبهم زيغ. This the one with their heart doubts. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he found that the Sahaba argue over when is Laylatul Qadr is, he was so angry that to extend his face كأنما يتفلق منه حب الرمان. He became like a pomegranate. His face became so red that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, are you been created for that purpose, to argue with each other? Is that what I ordered you to be? That you argue with each other, everyone use a verse against the other? And he was so angry that Ibn Umar said, I never in my life wished that I missed one of the Prophet ﷺ gathering except this gathering. I wish that I wasn't with the crowd. I wish I wasn't with the Prophet ﷺ that time. He was very angry. And he said, the most hated person, and the first hadith in Sahih, and this also in Bukhari Muslim, the most hated person to Allah, al-aladul khasim, the one who liked to argue over everything. And very aggressive in their argument when they argue with others. And also in Sunan Abi Dawood, al-mira'u fil Qur'ani kufr, wal-jidalu fil Qur'ani kufr. Those who argue over the Quran and basically with no knowledge, with no right intention, this is a form of kufr. Yani it is the attitude of the kuffar, the actions and the way of the kuffar. Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi said, I remember all the scholars that I met in my life, they advise us not to argue. The same thing with Abi Zinad. أدركنا أهل الفضل منا يحذروننا من الجدل. As a matter of fact, Imam Ahmad, when he said the fundamentals of the Sunnah, the foundation of the Sunnah, he said are, and he mentioned, following the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, leaving the innovations. Then he said, third one, and you leave argumentation. You don't argue with Ahlul Bidah. And don't argue in general. Number 5. Al-Imam al-Baghawi rahimahullah summarized it by saying, al-ulama, all of them agree that arguing is not a good quality. And arguing over Allah's attributes and arguing over the nature of Allah is something is forbidden. طيب, this is one side. In the other side, Al-Quran says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. In Surah Al-Nahl, argue with them in the best manner. وَتِلْكَ حُجَّتُنَا آتَيْنَاهَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ. We give Ibrahim the ability to argue very well. In Surah Al-An'am 83 and Surah Al-Baqarah 258, he gave us that beautiful debate between Ibrahim and the king and Namrud. He said, if Allah bring the sun from the east, you bring it from the west. That's an argument. That's right. He argued with his father. He argued with his people. Hey, look at these idols. The big one is the one who destroyed them. In Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 63. What about Musa? Didn't he argue with Fir'aun back and forth? قال فرعون وما رب العالمين قال رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين. Look at Surah Al-Shu'ara. قالوا يا نوح قد جادلتنا فأكثرت جدالنا. Nuh, you argue with us, and you argue a lot with us. In Surah Hud, verse 32. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ told us that Adam and Musa debated one another? That's not arguing. That's right. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he argued with the Jews in Sahih al-Bukhari. And that's something Al-Bukhari mentioned is Sahih, in showing that arguing with other people is acceptable. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Jahidul mushrikeen, with your tongue. How with your tongue? By replying to them, arguing with them. Didn't al-ulama argue with each other? Didn't al-fuqaha debate one another, the Muslim jurists? Didn't Ibn Abbas argue with the Khawarij? Didn't Ali radiallahu anhu argue with the Khawarij? Didn't Al-Awza'i rahimahullah made a big debate between him and one of the Qadariyah? And Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah debated Hafs al-Fard in a beautiful debate. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he argued with the shubuhat, the doubts of the Jahmiyyah. Where will you do with all this? Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said, ما رأيت أحدا لاح الرجال إلا أخذ بجوامع الكلم. I have not seen a young man who argue with people who are much experienced than him unless that person became so smart. So, what do we do? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah brought some of this evidence and more. And he said, look at this. This is like two oceans of evidence facing one another. Like two big waves of evidence crashing each other. In order for you to understand how to basically to understand those, you will know that I will just give you the summary of it. Arguing is based on two things: intention and the way you argue. Wasila wa niyya. Because we always argue with each other. And pay attention to this. So if this is two things, that means al-qisma ruba'iyya. It means you have 4 scenarios. That's right? So here we say that arguing either for truth, you argue for the truth, by the truth. للحق بالحق. So the intention is correct and the way you argue is correct. It's for truth. Or you argue for something invalid, something falsehood, using a falsehood arguing or argumentation. Using a falsehood arguing. ايش الصفة منها؟ أن تجادل بالباطل للباطل. So So you argue with falsehood for falsehood. You argue with truth for the truth. The third, can anybody think of the third scenario? You argue with the truth for the falsehood. Or you argue with falsehood for the truth. Make sense? Make sense? تجادل بالحق للحق بالباطل للباطل بالحق للباطل بالباطل للحق. You argue with truth for the truth. You argue with falsehood for the falsehood. You argue with falsehood for the truth. You argue with truth for the falsehood. Break it down. First one, you argue for the truth with the truth. This one, I have a question for you guys before I go further. From these four, which one you think a Sharia praise and which one a Sharia criticize? Praise number one. And the other three are something criticize. Something not good. That's right? That's right? You agree? I agree with Kabir, but I will say not 100%. I will say even number one is not fully praised, believe it or not. Number one, you argue for the truth with the truth. Al-ulama said with the condition, إذا كانت المصلحة راجحة, if there is a greater benefit. They said yes. Like what? Learning. I argue with my sheikh because I want to learn. I will do the devil advocate, as I said, or take the other position just to know how to answer this. That's what Umar ibn Aziz praised. Another scenario which is acceptable, you argue with the truth for the truth when you argue لإقامة الحجة, when the judge argue with the criminals. When the judge, let's say somebody came in front of the judge, he was accused that this person said a statement that take him out of Islam. The judge has to back and forth with that person, asking him, why did he say that? Try to convince him to repent. Like what Ibn Abbas did with the Khawarij. Or when you debate someone, basically, before you apply the judgment. So Ali did this before he fought Al-Khawarij. Umar ibn Aziz debated, Al-Awza'i debated the Qadari before Umar ibn Aziz executed that man. He wanted to give him a fair chance, a trial. So that debate took place with the innovators. But when there is no great benefit, actually there is risk. Even if you argue with the truth for the truth, Al-Ulama rahimahullah said you cannot argue. Like what? قالوا مجادلة الضعيف العاجز. Someone who want to go into a debate or want to argue with someone and you're not a good debater. Even though you're going to use the correct evidence and your intention is good, but you're weak, you don't know how to argue. You don't know how to win a debate. In this case, be quiet because you might mislead others. You don't know how to answer. It's like this guy was in Rice University that day. Somebody was telling him, oh, your prophet married this number. He said, no, the prophet only married one woman. He married 9. He said each one of them died, then he married the other one. He divorced them. That's even not a good example because he argued with the falsehood, because he argued with weak. But I mean, someone is he doesn't know how to present himself. That's just very not right. Also, any arguing, even with the truth, for the truth, but there is no benefit from it. And this became very common among the fuqaha at one point. Like, for example, there is this whole debate over, do you pray to the Kaaba or to the foundation of the Kaaba? Okay, so what's the point from all this debate? They said, if the Kaaba decide to walk away, قال ذهبت لزيارة أحد أولياء الله الصالحين. And I'm quoting. Said, Al-Kaaba decided to go visit one of Allah's wali, righteous. Do you follow the Kaaba when it's walking? Or do you stay at the Kaaba? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. Okay. For example, they raised a question: if a man, for somehow, he is a man but got pregnant and got a child and die, does the child inherit this as a father or inherit him as a mother? And you get all this arguing over stuff like that. That's not acceptable. Yeah, stuff like that. Someone asks you questions that most likely is somebody telling me, Sheikh, what about me praying in the top of Al-Kaaba? Ya akhi, you didn't go to Mecca even yet in your life. You talk about if I'm in the top of Al-Kaaba, how to pray. Or I am in the moon, or something like that. So this is, in this case, argumentation here is mira, has been recommended for you not to engage in it. The second one is to argue for the falsehood with the falsehood. And that's what the Quran mentioned right after that. وَجَادَلُوا بِالْبَاطِلِ لِيُدْحِضُوا بِهِ الْحَقِّ. They argue with the falsehood to defeat the truth. And this is like the Ahlul Bid'ah, the innovators, the kuffar, the mushrikeen, when they defend their deities and their bid'ah. The third one, you argue with the truth for the falsehood. You argue with the truth, but for the falsehood. Like those who argue to show their, to basically stretch their muscles, to show that they win debate, because they used to get gifts from governments in the old days and the khulafa and so forth. So those people, yes, they use right evidence, correct methods, but their intention is corrupted. And those people, they might, Allah bring good through them, because Allah bring victory to Islam through even Fajr, but that's wrong. And the last one is very, very important. It is arguing with the falsehood for the truth. And that's many of the mubtadi'ah like that. You have people argue with the Mu'tazilah, but with the falsehood, with the bid'ah. Raddul bid'ah bil bid'ah. They refute bid'ah with another bid'ah. That's absolutely not acceptable. To make up a hadith, to make up rules, and that's the door, which is when it was open, a lot of bid'ah came into Islam, because people thought because their intention is good, they want to refute the disbelievers, or they want to refute the atheists. So they start making up their own rules, and that's their intention is good, but it became a bid'ah that they started in the religion. And I will end up with this very famous debater in the West here was doing a debate in Canada. And in the debate, the person who was debating him, professor, he raised something about al-qadar against that person. So that person in the debate said, oh, I got your point. I don't think Allah knows everything before it happened. He said, I think God only knows things before it happened, generally, not specifically. He came up with that bid'ah, and he was able to refute that claim at that point, even though it's weak, but he maybe got out of the point. But he used falsehood to refute that atheist who basically tried to raise doubt about the whole entire Islam. Not because you win that maybe debate or that point, it means you're correct. And guess what? This particular incident led that person later on to be very far away from the Sunnah. And he left the way of Ahl Sunnah for a very long time. Alhamdulillah, lately he started coming back. He's a good friend of mine, and I love this person for the sake of Allah. And I had a lot of talk with him about it. But he ended up in many areas far away. And that's very dangerous, to argue for the truth with the falsehood. Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah has a very good example. He used to say, he said that if you see a beautiful garden and you want to walk to it, you can't walk to it with a muddy feet, where you leave your footprints with your mud all over this beautiful garden. What you do, you make the garden looks ugly and looks bad. You know, and that's exactly the way people, when they have good intention, but they do things in the wrong way. You have to have the good intention and you have to have the right course of action. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yuwaffiqna wa iyyakum. And if this has been clear, you understand why ulama rahimahullah, generally speaking, they don't like arguing. Because from the 4 scenarios, 3 are bad, and the only one left, half good and half bad. So that means that this door should be almost closed, and you should be very careful with that concept of argument. Any nation, as the Prophet ﷺ said, start arguing and not doing actions, Allah destroy them. And that would happen a lot in our community. We start argue a lot and we do a little. There is more to be said, inshallah, hopefully, in the upcoming classes. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.